Greetings, salutations, and howdy. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida television network. Glad you've tuned in tonight, everybody. Going to be doing a different kind of show tonight, more of a philosophical show, utilizing some voices from the past, some voices from the present, and actually voices that have been in the past and are in the present to illustrate some broader points. First off, I am your Liberty Loving Latino, Chris Salcedo, and there's a reason why I bring that up first. Liberty Loving Latino. Why did I give myself and this show that moniker? And there's a good reason for it. Part of, not exclusively, but part of the reason why this show exists is to notify, put on notice the basket of biased press, leftists in our culture and around the globe that not all Latinos are a bunch of left-wing nutcases. As a matter of fact, many of us have a lot of conservative values, adherence to the rule of law, love of the United States, and abhorrence to dictators, and abhorrence to a loss of liberty and freedom present in so many of the countries we and other Latinos have come from. My family, of course, descended from Mexicans, and that country is in awful shape. A lot of folks out there watching right now could have descendants from Cuba or maybe are from Cuba. You had an up-close and personal encounter with communism and left-wing ideology down that way. And there are examples to varying degrees all over the globe. But the predicate has been laid down in this country that only a legitimate Latino or only a legitimate liberal that happens to be Latino or vice versa. You understand what I'm trying to say? That if you are to be considered credible as a Latino voice, you must be a progressive. You must be anti-American. And I disagree with that. And as a matter of fact, I think a growing number of Hispanics, as they look back on their countries of descent, and they see what terrible shape they're in because of the ideology adopted by the Democrat Party in this country, they start to give conservatism, maybe not the Republican Party, but conservatism, a second look. So here's how you get in touch with the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide. First off, the Chris Salcedo Show Facebook page. Go there when you get a chance. Just type in The Chris Salcedo Show and you'll find it. Go to chrissalcedo.com. That's where you'll find what this show is basically about, how to find us on radio. And you can also drop us an email there, or if you want to, use the phone and leave us an audio message. And those messages, if we like them and it spurs some thought or discussion, we'll bring them up. Even you folks on the left out there, we'll bring them up on the program and address them. At Chris Salcedo TX, at ChrisSalcedotx on Twitter. All right, the first voice I'm going to be talking about tonight will be a voice from the past. And that voice from the past who is speaking in the present is none other than Hanoi Jane Fonda.
Are you proud of America today?
No, but
well,
I'm proud of the resistance. I'm proud of the people who are turning out in unprecedented numbers and continue over and over and over again to protest what Trump is doing. I'm very proud of that
right,
core.
Yeah, that core. I wonder if she was proud of we in the conservative movement who were standing up against President Obama. No, she wasn't proud of us. So it's not the mere fact of standing up and partaking in what is an American right, which is to dissent from our government. No, she's only proud because of individuals who are leftists standing up to Donald Trump. Jane Fonda, of course, infamous for glad-handing with our enemy in the Vietnam era. Something you have to know about my family. My stepfather fought in the Vietnam War. To this day, carries scars from that war. And that woman, that leftist, gave aid and comfort and propaganda to the enemy. And she was asked about this at the BBC interview, and she responded to this. She doesn't regret what she did, giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
I don't regret going to Vietnam. I'm proud that I went. It changed my life, all for the good. The thing that I regret is that on my last day there, I made the mistake of going to a ceremony at an anti-aircraft gun. I sat down and laughing, and then I got up, and as I walked away, I realized, oh my gosh, it's going to look like I am against my own country's soldiers and siding with the enemy, which is the last thing in the world that was true.
No, well, okay, we can call her stupid, young stupid, or just stupid. That's synonymous with liberal and progressive. What did she think back then as an adult woman that she would be seen as doing when she sat down and was fraternizing with the enemy? What did she think was going to be the impression? That somehow she was against her country. And she was. And she was against those soldiers who had sworn an oath to defend that country. Did every soldier that went to Vietnam agree with the policies started in that war by Democrats? No, they didn't. But they did their duty. It didn't stop them from doing their duty and doing their full measure of devotion, many of them, to this country, even if they didn't agree with the policy. So what Jane Fonda should have done is used her celebrity even back then to stay here at home and decry her government here at home. The only thing that was accomplished by her being seen laughing and guffawing with the enemy was to give them propaganda to say, see, even America's left, even the liberals in America don't believe in America's mission in Vietnam. It was incredibly damaging, incredibly demoralizing. Let's bring it to this guy, somebody who was the polar opposite of Jane Fonda, a patriot, someone who is also the opposite of Jane Fonda, a thinking person, someone who understands the ramifications and the greatness of America. This is Ronald Reagan, and he was at his, I believe this is his acceptance of the second nomination process for his second term in office. And he had some things to say about America's economics. I want you all to hear it.
As your nominee, I pledge to you to restore to the federal government the capacity to do the people's work without dominating their lives.
What a concept. Now, those of Jane Fonda's caliber believe that government must be involved in every drop and tittle of your life. What you can eat, what you can drive, what you can say these days. The American left has descended in that. Jane Fonda was one of the mothers of the radical left-wing movement that we see present today, this resist movement that she made allusion to. These leftists on college campuses who do not allow free speech to be spoken if it disagrees with their worldview. The individuals who have taken to our streets, burning down our neighborhoods, burning down our businesses, terrorizing our citizens, whether they be called Antifa or Black Lives Matter. These individuals believe in empowering the government to lord over you. Why do you think so many people were so upset when Barack Obama left office? So many liberals were so upset. It's because the progressives lost the ability to tell you what to do. Liberal extremists, when Obama was thrown out of power and Republicans maintained control of Congress, they lost the ability to tell you what to do. There was a chance, we had a chance. Not that the Republicans have afforded us any great strides in that direction, but we had a chance to become once again a government of, by, and for the people. And that prospect scares the living daylights out of a leftist like Jane Fonda and those who take to the streets to burn down our cities. Ronald Reagan continued.
I pledge to you
as the graphic there just said, this was actually the first acceptance of the nomination. His first go-around, 1980 is when this was.
I pledge to you a government that will not only work well, but wisely. Its ability to act tempered by prudence, and its willingness to do good, balanced by the knowledge that government is never more dangerous than when our desire to have it help us blinds us to its great power to harm us.
That is a lesson that I'm not even sure liberals have the capacity to comprehend. There's never, I shouldn't say that. There is a point beyond which liberals believe government cannot exceed. It is when government disagrees with their sensibilities. So long as government agrees with them, everything's A-OK. Everything's copacetic. They don't care about anybody else's freedom, just their own. And Ronald Reagan was absolutely correct. Government is never more dangerous when we, the people, are blinded by its enormous power to harm us. There's a Salcedo show axiom I want you guys to all know. It is best not to give government more power, lest it be abused. And there's a perfect illustration of this. President George W. Bush, the Patriot Act. Those of you who were Republicans out there, or maybe even conservatives who trusted George W. Bush, look at the destructive power that Barack Obama wielded with those powers that were, many people, including this conservative, believed were never right to be surrendered by Congress to the chief executive. And then look at what Barack Obama did, having violated the Constitution. Over the last couple of nights, we've been detailing some of those violations. Barack Obama, for example, just releasing money out of the Treasury, which was never his power to do, but he did it. Why? Because nobody opposed him. There's a word for that. It's called dictator. And my broader point in all of this is if you trust the person who is wielding the power, all the progressives out there trusted Barack Obama with what he was doing. Even though he was violating the Constitution, they just said, let him do it. That's all well and good. But what if Donald Trump said, you know what, I'm going to use that same power that liberals gave to Barack Obama to just command the Treasury to build the wall? Then would that be okay, liberals? Would that be okay, progressives? Oh, I think you'd be caterwauling right now. Speaking of Donald Trump, there he is. He was speaking at the Heritage Foundation, and he was talking about, along those same themes, economics. And he brought up Ronald Reagan, and he brought up the value of the proposed tax cuts he has planned.
The Great Heritage Foundation has been at the center of several incredible tax cuts in American history. Working closely with the Heritage Foundation, Ronald Reagan cut taxes to unleash the economic miracle of the 1980s.
And it was more than a miracle. At the time, it was the largest expansion of the economy, longest expansion of the economy in our history. And it operated on a simple premise. Grow the base. Give people and allow people to keep more of their money, allow them to reinvest, allow them to buy products, and you will expand the base, and there'll be more taxpayers. Money flowed into the Treasury. Unfortunately, we had an undisciplined Congress who spent the money, who continued to spend the money instead of paying down our debt. Had the Congress acted responsibly, the Reagan legacy would be even greater than it is today.
You understand that lower taxes mean bigger paychecks, more jobs, and stronger growth. At the heart of our plan is a tax cut for everyday working Americans. The first $12,000 for a single individual and the first $24,000 for a married couple will be tax-free.
Why are taxes important? Why is economic freedom important? The reason is because everything that we do here in this country is tied to that economic freedom. You know, back to Reagan, if I can, for a moment. He observed that our political freedoms had been guarded inside of the Constitution of the United States, and that's right and appropriate. And frankly, we've been losing some of those political protections as of late because of liberals' dominance in our education system. But Reagan also asserted that we also need equal protections for our economic freedoms, because without our economic prowess, the United States isn't able to keep free, isn't able to fight for freedom for those who are oppressed around the globe and keep ourselves free at the same time. Right now, we are saddled, folks, with over $20 trillion in debt and billions upon trillions of dollars of unfunded liabilities that our government is committed to spending. The government that will never be alive to realize the ramifications of what they have done. It is irresponsible for them to consign our children and our grandchildren to economic oblivion so they can make it through their life fat, happy, and sassy. The solution is you and I saying to our politicians, you know what, I think we're going to actually put a stop to it. Got more things that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, said to the Heritage Foundation when we come back. The Chris Salcedo Show here on the Vida Television Network. Stick with me. Welcome back. Chris Salcedo Show here on the Vida Television Network, continuing our examination of conservatism, how I think it's the answer not only for the American people, people worldwide, Latinos in particular, shows us the way out of oppressive governance that we have seen in far too many countries in the Hispanic world, including Mexico, including Cuba, Venezuela, and others. Donald Trump was speaking before the Heritage Foundation. And one of the things about the Heritage Foundation you have to know from me is they're one of my favorite organizations. A lot of good conservative minds in there. And so I think it was important for Donald Trump to go there and speak to these people because, well, to be quite frank, they can help his administration. The one thing you got to know about Donald Trump is that he's not a doctrinaire conservative like me. He hasn't put a lot of thought into conservatism. What Donald Trump does is he operates on a, how do we say, it's instinctual level, maybe a very American level. As an American, he says, wow, is this America? That's not right. Now that comes from, the baseline for that is conservatism. Conservatism built the United States. Liberalism has done nothing but make us weaker and tear us down. The Democrat Party, look at the Democrat Party today. Look, what do they stand for? What do they stand for? Of course, they stand against him, but they are the anti-white party. They are the anti-Christian party. They are the anti-rule of law party. And we've detailed how that has played itself out over the last couple of days here on the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide. They are the anti-Jewish state party. What Barack Obama's Democrat Party did to the state of Israel during his occupation of the Oval Office was borderline criminal, to the point where Barack Obama used his campaign apparatus to try to affect the election outcome in Israel. All these Democrats caterwauling about alleged Russian interference in our elections. Pot calling the kettle black, I would say. Back to Donald Trump. His speech before the Heritage Foundation, wide-ranging, but he did use it primarily to sell his tax plan, but he also hit on some cultural impacts and some conservative impacts that I think are important to actually talk about.
We're here to ensure that we defend this legacy from any threat, foreign or domestic, that would seek to weaken our values, diminish our freedoms, or dissolve the bonds that hold us so strongly and firmly together. As our nation has responded in recent weeks to a series of heartbreaking tragedies, from the catastrophic storms to the devastating wildfires to the horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas, we are reminded that no destructive force on earth is stronger than the courage, character, and love of the American people.
The unifying message was important to hear. how many of you can say that Donald Trump's political opposition, nearly a year after his election, has concentrated whatsoever on unification, concentrated on bringing us together as Americans? No, it's just the opposite. They have sought to divide and they have sought to conquer since his election. You saw it right off the top of the show with Hanoi Jane, this left-wing actress. And man alive, look at what's going on out in Hollywood. Are they the paragons of virtue that we want to emulate here in this country? As a matter of fact, gone are the days when you can look at Hollywood and say that's the best of America. Bob Hope isn't there anymore. John Wayne isn't there anymore. Those individuals who believed in the greatness of this country, they're not there. They're replaced with names like Harvey Weinstein, Jane Fonda, George Clooney. Leftists. Anti-American leftists. Susan Sarandon. Although Susan Sarandon, I kind of agreed with some of her takes on Hillary Clinton. I've got to be honest. Anyway, more from the President of the United States as he was speaking to the Heritage Foundation.
Everyone here tonight understands a core truth, that for America to have confidence in our future, we must have pride in our history. As Americans, we have inherited a special legacy of freedom, culture, laws, traditions, and values. Your organization is named the Heritage Foundation because you understand that our glorious heritage is the foundation of everything we hope to achieve. You understand that human progress must be built upon a firm foundation of timeless truths. These truths are immortalized in our founding documents. And the most important truth our founders understood was this: freedom is not a gift from government. Freedom is a gift from God.
Listen to the applause. And they were right to applaud. And, you know, for many of you, I haven't talked much about my faith, but many of you probably watching are like me, Catholic. One of the biggest problems I have had with the Pope is his failure to recognize what America truly is. Our founding document, what it stood for, stands for, at least it's supposed to. It was constructed in a way to preserve rights that our founding fathers believed were inalienable, that they could not be denied by a legitimate government, because our founding fathers believed legitimate governments protected those rights because they were given not by government but by God. That man's natural state of being is freedom, is liberty. As a matter of fact, those of you who do have a religious background, and how many times have we been told this from childhood on up by our parents or by clergy? You know, when you asked, you know, why, mommy, daddy, why does God allow bad things to happen? And the answer has always been freedom of choice. He gave us freedom of choice. And our founding fathers believed that we would enshrine that freedom to the greatest degree possible with a civilized society in our founding documents. Liberty, freedom, prosperity. Those are the rights of every man. Now, does every man have that on earth? No. No. As a matter of fact, to this day, America still remains unique, the great experiment. As Democrats win elected office and as progressives continue to poison minds in our government-run schools, that is diminished by every generation. That's why I believe it's up to you and me to fight back, and why I believe private education is on the upswing, why I believe charter schools are on the upswing, why I believe so many parents are demanding that their taxpayer dollars be utilized to educate their children how they see fit, because everything he just talked about there is not being talked about in our schools, in our founding documents. The president continued here at the Heritage Foundation.
This is a time of great challenge for the world, but also a time of great opportunity. We can unleash the creative power of our citizens, unlock new frontiers in science and medicine, and usher in prosperity for communities all across our land. But to achieve these great things, we must hold fast to the values that define who we are as a people and as a nation. Everyone here tonight is united by these same enduring beliefs. We believe that the Constitution is the greatest political document in human history, and that judges should interpret the Constitution as written.
The foundation of our government, the Constitution of the United States. It has guided us for over 200 years, and it was responsible for the building of the greatest nation on the planet. A meteoric rise by any stretch of the imagination, from culture to technology. More advances here in the United States in the last 50 or 60 years than in the previous 200. It wasn't by accident. Liberals want you to think it was by accident. But it was because of that great founding document, the Constitution.
We believe we should preserve our history, not tear it down. Now they're even trying to destroy statues of Christopher Columbus. What's next? Has to be stopped. It's heritage. We believe that America is a nation of opportunity because we are a nation of laws, and we support the incredible men and women of law enforcement.
He's not done. Hold on.
We believe that our great American flag should be treated with reverence and respect, and that young Americans should be taught to love our country, honor our anthem, and proudly recite the Pledge of Allegiance. We believe that strong nations must have strong borders, and that our most important job is to serve the needs of America and the American people. That includes common sense reforms like cracking down on sanctuary cities, ending catch and release, and very importantly, ending chain migration.
There was a time when a president of the United States wouldn't have to go over all of these fundamental truths, but he has to in this era where progressivism has taken over our entertainment, where it's taken over our K through 12 government-run schools. The rule of law must be adhered to. The American culture is worthy of preserving. People that come in must assimilate and become Americans. He touched on all of those themes in this speech, and they're important. Why? It's because that's why we've been talking about the NFL and other cultural matters here over the last few days. The culture informs our policy. And more simply put, we get the government we deserve. Comments on tonight's program, please leave them at chrissalcedo.com, if you will, at chrissalcedotx on Twitter. That's going to do it for this evening, folks. I hope you have a pleasant one. We'll see you back here tomorrow night on the Vida television network for the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide. Hope to see you then.